Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of Leadership Synergized. I'm your host, Kevin Smith. Today is special because every now and then we meet someone whose work doesn't just inform us, it moves us. Someone whose writing captures humanity, heart, and the deeper stories behind the people we all admire. My guest today, my friends, is exactly that kind of storyteller. Mirin Fader has a gift for uncovering the soul inside the sport, the purpose behind the performance, and her work challenges us to look closer, think deeper, and lead with greater empathy, curiosity, and courage. My friends, you're about to hear wisdom from a writer who elevates every room she enters and every story she touches. Currently, Mirin is in the process of writing a book on NBA Hall of Famer Larry Bird. So lean in, settle in, and get ready, because this conversation is one you'll carry with you long after it ends. Hello again, my friends. Welcome to this episode of Leadership Synergized. This is where we get a chance to introduce and meet some wonderful people, individuals who are making a difference in their lives, whether it's personally, professionally, or in all aspects. And this week, I'm just, honored to bring to you a very special guest, an individual that I'm actually meeting face-to-face for the very first time, but we've had a chance to speak a bit about a project that she's currently working on, and we might actually get into some of that over the next window of time in the episodes we have. But we have our special guest, sports writer, author, successful author, Ms. Mirin Fader. Mirin, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, and apropos, right, that you've got the
Yeah.
books right behind you in that setting for an author.
I do love books. I do. I was like, this is the perfect Zoom background.
I love that. And I should state, Mirin has been out interviewing, doing her work, rushing to get here, and I feel really bad about that aspect. But Mirin, again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here. What an outstanding career you've had at this point. In the past 4 years, almost 3.5 years now, you've released 2 books that have been well received, focused on NBA legends, current and in the past. Talk a little bit about those books and from your perspective, your original objectives and actually what you've seen come to fruition with their release.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That's super kind of you. So my first book was on Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the second book was on Hakeem Olajuwon. And I've always kind of wanted to write books and sports books. When I was growing up, those were like the only books that I read. Like my parents were deeply concerned, like, does she have any other interests besides basketball? And so I was like, okay, it makes sense that I would grow into an adult and try to tackle sports books. And the first book, Giannis it's a unique subject for a biography. Usually biographies are about people that are maybe ages 60 and up. Oftentimes biographies are often written about people that are no longer with us. Giannis was this 26-year-old phenomenon that, although was so young and so unique to have a book about him, his rise was so extraordinary, from just this impoverished circumstances in Greece to, winning an NBA MVP. And I just thought, how did he get from A to B? Like a lot of people, they see the success, but they don't see all the work behind it and all the trials and tribulations that go into it. So I was like, I think that's a great idea for a book. What was Giannis's rise like? How did he get to this position that he has now? And then when I was looking to do the second book, I just kept thinking about Giannis as in the new NBA order that we have, where most of the young superstars are international superstars. And I just kind of was like, well, how did that happen, right? Like who paved the way for these international stars to dominate? And I was like, Hakeem Olajuwon, like nobody really talks about him anymore. He was like the first true international superstar. So I saw that book, even though I wrote it after my first book, as almost like the prequel to the first book. Like, here's how this international dominance of the NBA happened. And it started with Hakeem. So, I've been just so encouraged that both books are out, and it's so surreal, it's so surprising to me to see them in bookstores. I'm like, wait, somebody other than my mother is reading this. But yeah, it's been really nice.
I love that. So talk a little bit about, when did you recognize that writing was where Mirin wanted to spend her time at?
Yeah, this realization took a very long time. Growing up, I wanted to be in the WNBA. Like, I was all about basketball. You can't see me, but I am 5 feet tall. I am very short. And so it was a very uphill battle to try to make it professionally. I played my first year in college. things didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I was like, okay, I know basketball is not going the way that I had dreamed of. What can I do with my life? And I was always a writer in the sense like I just wrote in journals, but like nothing professional, nothing serious. And so I was like, and like I mentioned, I love to read sports books. And so I was like, maybe I should be in sports journalism somehow. That will let me stay in basketball. And so it kind of happened after I quit basketball my sophomore year of college and was trying to figure out, okay, what's my plan B? And I thought, well, these are my two interests. Let me see if they work. And it ended up being, the perfect marriage of my interests. But I definitely, growing up, I didn't know you could like be a writer. I don't know. That just wasn't a career that I thought you could be when I was growing up. It's like doctor, lawyer, whatever, basketball player.
That's funny. You bring back a memory of mine too, because when I wrote papers, for junior high, middle school English, or high school, it was all around sports stuff. And I
Right.
remember my seventh grade English teacher telling me I've got to get my head out of that area and write about other stuff. It was so difficult for me to get away from that piece.
Same, same. And you know what? Looking back now, I'm like, I'm glad that I was so into sports because that's what got me reading, right? Who cares what kids read as long as they read?
Yeah. Yeah. So walk us through a little bit, and for our viewers and listeners, Marion, we're going to jump back and get to know you more in just a moment.
Sure.
Let you introduce yourself, but just initially, when it comes to writing a book such as you've wrote on the two individuals that you've mentioned, one currently playing Giannis, and then Hakeem, and the great success, Hall of Fame career that he had. Talk a bit about time and project and what's all involved in that piece, because you just don't do that overnight or in 1 week, obviously.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I knew a lot of work went into books, but I think it's just such another thing when you're in it and you experience it firsthand and you realize like, my God, like these things take a while. Um, but ironically, the first book, I think because I was such a rookie, I mean, I had been writing professionally for 10 years, but as far as books, I had never written a book before, so I was very much a rookie. And so my first book, I only had a year to do it, the one on Giannis, which is
Okay.
absolutely crazy. Usually people get like 2, 3, some even 4 years. So I was doing this like very long process condensed into 1 year, which meant that I was interviewing people and doing the reporting side and doing the writing side all in 1 year, which was crazy. The Hakeem one, I got a little bit more time. I got 2 years, which really did make a big difference. But I think a lot of authors who are, older, more accomplished than me, they usually get like 3 years ish. So I'm like fingers crossed for one day being able to like get that time and space. It's just it's hard because I have my like actual job, which is I do cover the NBA, and it's such a privilege to be busy. I know that, of course, but doing it all at once, it's kind of like this morning, like you're just driving everywhere and you're trying to figure it out, and you're like, oh my God, I feel behind on everything. So I think it's like I said, it's a privilege to be busy, but yeah, a lot more goes into books than I think people realize.
Yeah, those of us who are the connoisseurs of the book, the end customer, so to speak, we get to read it and put it down. We
Right.
can go back through it in that piece, and maybe in a week or two we've read the book in that setting. So I appreciate the amount of time, but there's a tremendous amount of dedication, I would imagine, not
Yeah.
pretending at all to ever have undertaken a project like you have. And again, Mirin, you are fascinating. Your track record of success is outstanding, and I appreciate your commitment and dedication. But that word dedication again, because I would imagine, we hear a lot, right? Most individuals who fail are maybe just that next decision point of keeping going forward to success.
Right.
Writing a book, I would imagine there's a lot of pull about, do I really want to do this? Should I continue? Or, maybe a little bit of trying to force yourself to get away and clear your mind.
Yeah, it's really, really hard. Like dedication is the right word because it's a choice, right? Like at the end of the day, when I'm tired and you have your normal work, and then of course you gotta eat, so you gotta cook, and then you gotta clean, and then you gotta do all this stuff. And before you know it, it's like 9 p.m. and you're exhausted, and it's like, wait, I gotta work on my book now. It's that dedication of like, it's 9 p.m., it's 10 p.m. Okay, I need to do some form of exercise. I'm gonna read this book on Greek politics while I am on the incoming bike. It's a lot of like I know it sounds kind of cliche and corny, but it is a lot of late nights. And it's a lot of weird hours, like I was interviewing people that live in Greece, and so obviously it's a different time
Mm.
zone. And so I would wake up super, super early, my time in Los Angeles, and then just talk to them at their nighttime. And your people are like, "Well, how's the book going?" And you're like, "Well, I just had an interview at 4 a.m. and I was up till midnight and I'm exhausted," but it's kind of like the stuff we love about sports, right? It requires the same work ethic. It requires the same like commitment to it. Like when I was a basketball player, I was the same way. I was like, no, I can't go to that. I can't go to that party. I'm doing this. Or my first job at the local paper, the Orange County Register out here for my first 4 years of my career, I felt like everybody was out on a Friday night and I was like, I have a story due Sunday. Like I can't do that. I've got to stay up and write. And so other people might see it as not as fun, but I think those sacrifices were definitely worth it because yeah, like I love this, I'm passionate about this, and I want to be dedicated, but it's not easy.
What's the feeling when that book is published and you see it out in print? What's that? It has to be a lot of euphoria and just great satisfaction initially.
It is. It's so like even before it hits the stores, they send you like a box of them
Mm.
and you get like 12 of them or something. And you're just like, I think the first time I received the box, I was like, I can't even open this. I'm so like nervous, like, oh my God, it really exists. This thing that's lived in my head that I've been working on all these nights. It's real, it's happening. And then you open the box and you're like, oh my God, like this is real. This is okay. This is really happening. This is really happening. And then you open it and you're like, oh my God, it exists. It's just such a surreal feeling. There is joy, but it's also just shock, like I cannot believe this came together, because my apartment, like there's just binders everywhere and notes and okay, here's this books on Greek history over there and Nigerian stuff over here for Hakeem. And, your apartment ends up looking like this crazy mess of folders. And then all of a sudden you've got this book and it's just filled with the stuff and everything's in its proper place. And you're just kind of like shocked that it all came together.
So, how long before you actually begin writing your first book had you considered writing? And did you kind of know your subject matter from the get-go?
Yeah, no, it took so I would say, so I graduated college 2013. I started at the OC Register, that newspaper job that I just mentioned from 2013 to 2017. And during those first 4 years, I definitely was thinking about it. I was like, I want to write a book. I was really inspired by like some of my mentors at the time, like Jeff Pearlman. He's a great writer, a great sports author, and I wanted to basically emulate his career. And he moved from New York to Orange County, California, right when I started that job. So I just messaged him and I was like, hey, I really want to be an author one day. And
Mm.
he was kind enough to like meet up with me at a Starbucks. And ever since I met with him, I was just like, I want to write a book. I want to do just what he does. And so I spent the next maybe like 10 years like coming up with ideas. And the thing with books is you have to have not just an idea, but a whole proposal. And it's like this 40 to 50 page document of summarizing it and sample chapters and just really in-depth stuff. It can't just be like, hey, I want to do this. And you also have to have a literary agent to represent you to then take that proposal and like shop it to publishers. And so it was really hard to find somebody who would represent me because a lot of them would say similar things like, I think you have so much potential, but you're too young, or like, I really like you. I don't think the idea is sellable, or like, I love your enthusiasm. I
Mm.
don't think you're quite there yet. And so like, it just wasn't whether it was my ideas or my lack of experience, a combination of both, it never quite worked out. And then I just sort of told myself, after like 8 years in or whatever, writing professional, I was like, if it happens for me, it'll happen. I'm not gonna try to come up with the idea, let the idea come to me. And that's kind of how it happened. I was working for my next place, Bleacher Report mag,
Mm.
and at the time, Giannis had not won a MVP yet. He was like a superstar, almost like he was becoming one, but he wasn't like Giannis, and it wasn't like him and his brothers, as they are now, are so front facing. And my editor was like, Giannis has a younger brother. He's like 15. He's in high school. You should go to Milwaukee and profile him. I think that would be such a cool subject. I've never heard of an NBA player having a fourth brother. Usually it's like two brothers, three
Mhm.
brothers, whatever. And I go to do this story, and Giannis happens to be in the house. What?
Wow.
And so it ended up being a story about both him and his brother, and the book naturally came out of that. So it really was a lesson in like patience, like the
Mm.
book will come when it's ready to come. You don't
Mm.
have to create it.
Yeah, what a great model that basically emulates. You just never know, right? It's
Oh,
that
you never
value of
know.
always be observing and seeking and ready to jump in where you may not know
Right.
anything or have questions for those individuals. That's a great example. I'm so happy it's worked out for you.
Yeah, well, and it also just shows like, in journalism, they always say like, instead of just being lazy and calling somebody up on the phone, go in person,
Mm.
minus when there was ice on the things when I could have met you. But normally you're supposed to do it in person. Our listeners will understand what we mean by that later. But um, if I had not gone in person to Milwaukee, I don't know if my book career would have ever happened.
Mm.
And it's not like I went there being like, yeah, my book career is about to happen after this. Like even after the story came out, I didn't think, oh, book. It just happened. Like it just happens, but you have to put yourself in those positions in order for things to happen like that, very, serendipitously like that.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes I think we in the natural on this earth, we're trying to force the activity, right? Force the event, and we don't just basically to the logo that I use in the podcast and my coach's training, we're just not still enough and let life present itself to us.
Right. I really struggle with that. I mean, still is something that I need to be more of. And I think it's because I want this so bad, and
Mm.
I still have the athlete in me that thinks, the way to achieve is to like hustle, 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 hustle. And that's true. But like you said, it's like part of it is also resting is productive, being
Mm.
still, allowing things to happen. When I did do that, things happened for me. I should listen to that example more.
No, I love that. We're talking to Mirin Fader, sports writer, author, sports author in that piece. She's been so gracious to join us today, and she's going to stick around, and we're going to come back with a couple of other episodes. Mirin, thank you for being here as we wrap this episode up and come back next week where we get to know Mirin, the person, the basketball player. Talk about your basketball history. By the way, you look 7 foot tall in the camera, so we
It's
wouldn't know
all
any
a
different in
scam.
that piece.
It's all a scam.
I love that, right? Hey, that's athletics sometimes in that
That's
particular
right.
regard. What's one piece of advice for someone who maybe has thought about writing, whether it's an article, a book, or what have you, but has continuously put it off? What's one piece of advice? They hear you, they see the passion, the love, and quite frankly, the fun and excitement that you bring that you might offer them.
Yeah, the first step is really getting over the intimidation factor that lives in all of us.
Mm.
So I always think, when I go to a bookstore, there's like two different ways to view it. You can go to a bookstore and you can see all these books and say to yourself, oh my God, there's no way I could ever, ever be on these
Mm.
shelves. Look how many books there are. So intimidating, so scary. Or you could walk into that bookstore and say, wow, look how many books there are. Okay, literally, these people were not born with a book writing gene. Like, there's no book chip in their heads that they were born with that I wasn't, that they're somehow capable and I'm not. So, all these people were just regular people who wrote books. So, I could be on the shelves too. And so, I think it's just look at it like the second way. It's not this thing that like other people are born destined to do and you're not. Everyone is fully capable and nobody thinks they can do it till they do it. And then even after they do it, they're still like, oh, how will I do another one? So I would say doubt is part of the process, but if you stick with it and you do it anyway, I mean, it's so rewarding.
Great advice. Thank you. Thank you again, Marin, for you and your career with us to this point. Again, Marin's going to stick around and we're going to get to know her a little bit more. Marin, God bless you for what you do and what you represent, success and quite frankly, just the fun part of having success. So thank you for that today.
Thank you so much.
And for all of you watching and listening, God bless you for being with us and come back and learn more from Mirin next week. Enjoy and God bless. Wow, what a gift today's conversation has been, Mirin. Thank you not just for joining us, but for the extraordinary way you bring stories to life. Your writing doesn't simply entertain, it enlightens. It teaches us to see people fully, to lead with compassion, and to value the quiet truths beneath the headlines. Your dedication to your craft, your relentless curiosity, and your respect for the human experience, well, they shine through every word. You're right, my friend. And today, they reminded us all of why storytelling still matters, why great storytelling changes people. To all who joined this episode, thank you for spending this time with us. And Mirin, truly, thank you for sharing your heart, wisdom, and your remarkable talent with the world. We're all better for it. God bless you, my friends. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading well.